Hello everybody, here I am again doing another haircut. This is going to be our 45-degree angle razor haircut. So I'm going to start by sectioning my mannequin into 4 quadrants from the highest point of the head down to behind the ear on each side, and from the highest point of the head down all the way to the bottom of the nape. I'm going to leave one side out because that's the one I'm going to start cutting. And I'm going to leave about 1.5 to 2 inches in that section because now I'm going to start working on vertical sections. Okay, so 4 quadrants. And so with this haircut, this is going to be a razor haircut. So before you start on a 45-degree razor haircut, your base, whatever you start off with, has to be already a 0-degree haircut. So previous to this video, I did the demo for the 0 elevation razor haircut, and this is the mannequin I just finished. So if you notice, she's already cut to one length with a razor. So every time you start a layer haircut, you want to make sure that you are gonna determine the length that your client wants. In this case, I think I cut about 3 inches off, 2 to 3 inches off. And that's what you want to start off with, because if your client tells you, I want a little bit of a taper layers, and you just do the taper, and then she at the end of your haircut, she goes, oh no, but I wanted it right under my chin. So then you're gonna have to go ahead and redo the whole haircut again. So first you have to ask your client, and that's part of your consultation. You're gonna ask what length they want on their haircut. So once you determine the length of the desired length of the client, you're gonna do a 0-degree with a traveling guide first, and then you're gonna start your layer haircut. So I already have that here. I'm gonna start on the back, and let me show you. This is about 1.5 inches to 2 inches section, and I pulled a little bit from this side and a little bit from this side, just so that I'm right in the middle on my guide. So let me show you on paper what I'm about to do. So I'm on the back. I'm gonna start elevating the hair to a 45-degree angle. And when I cut, I'm gonna use a 45-degree finger angle as well. So remember, there is angle, elevation angle, and then there's finger angle. So we're gonna do a finger angle 45, elevation 45. And this is a razor haircut. Okay, and I'm gonna start working with vertical sections. So my sections are gonna look like that. In difference of the 0-degree haircut, with the 0-degree haircut, we were doing about 1/2 inch section to start off with, and we were working on horizontal sections. Now we're gonna cut the hair, and I'm gonna isolate this hair just so you could see what I'm doing. I'm gonna create so I have a vertical section. I'm gonna turn her sideways so that you could see. So this is no elevation, so this is 0. But if I start over directing the hair and lifting the hair from its natural fall, then I start creating an angle. You see that? So this is a 45-degree angle from its natural fall. So we're gonna do 45. Since I've already cut the length, this piece of hair on the bottom, which is the very bottom from the nape, that's gonna determine my length. The length has already been cut, so I'm not gonna make that length any shorter. So I'm gonna elevate this section to a 45-degree elevation. And I'm gonna start changing my fingers to a 45-degree angle. So if I wanted to do a 45-degree elevation to 90-degree finger angle, I would keep my fingers straight up. But since I want to do 45, I'm gonna point them towards me to have a 45 and 45. So I want you to keep attention on this line here, which is your 45-degree elevation. And then this, my fingers, which is my 45-degree angle, along with this little piece on the bottom, which is the length. So I'm gonna cut about right here. I'm gonna make sure that on this side, when I'm looking, I'm gonna turn the mannequin so that you can see what view I have. So this is the view I have. My fingers are pointing straight at me in this case. And as soon as I have the guide, which is the hair on the bottom of my fingers, come off, then I'm gonna start cutting. Because I don't wanna cut this piece because that's already my length. I only wanna start creating some layers. So what it would look like, it would start creating some 45-degree elevation. So every single piece of hair will be elevated to 45 degrees, and you would cut here, which means once you drop the hair, it's gonna tuck in. So the shorter hair would push into the longer hair, and it's gonna push it in, and it's gonna give you more of a taper finish. A little bit of layers, not too much, just enough movement on the ends. Okay, so here we go. And I'm gonna do a profile. So that you could see. So I look for my guide. As soon as my guide leaves my fingers on the bottom, then I'm gonna cut. And I'm gonna do small strokes this time. So you see how automatically the hair is tucking in, it's going under. So you see that? And then it goes under. I'm gonna drop the whole section that I had isolated previously, and I'm gonna take another vertical section. So combing the hair from the top to the bottom, creating a vertical. And just a hot tip. I see a lot of students that when they're combing their section, they're automatically combing horizontal, using their comb horizontal. If you're combing or if you're cutting vertically, I want you to start combing vertically so that you remind yourself of what you're doing every time. Because if I start combing this way, automatically I want to cut horizontal. So bring your section vertical, and then so that it reminds you that that you're gonna be cutting and sectioning on a vertical section. So what I'm gonna do right now, I'm gonna take a little bit of my guide, which is the previous section, and I'm gonna direct it to my subsection. So that I have a little bit of a guide. Now, do I really wanna need to bring that guide to my subsection? Not necessarily, because if I have already created the length, I could keep taking that length in consideration to be my guide. Or you could do it that way. Bring just a little bit of your guide to your subsection. And you want to always cut in front of you to the heart. So as soon as I see that guide coming off my fingers, then I'm going to start cutting. And then this is a traveling guide, so you're gonna have to move around every time you cut. You're gonna have to step to the side or turn your client. So again, a 45-degree elevation. And you don't want to touch the very bottom because that's already your length. You don't want to make the length any shorter. So you could really see from profile how it's going under, but it's not creating a ton of layers. If you could see that. And here it's not creating a ton of layers. It's only gonna taper the ends. So then you drop your next section. And you could see how I'm not necessarily making that any shorter. Let me tap on there so you could see better. Not making it any shorter. I'm just layering the ends. Trying to get the best lighting. Right there. So make sure that the hair is nice and wet. And I haven't changed my blade. I should probably change my blade for this haircut, but I don't have a lot of blades with me, so I'm just gonna try to work as much as I can with this one here. Remember to check for the blades, make sure that it's nice and sharp. So you could see right there how I could see my previous guide. So you could either follow that guide or you could follow the length as your guide. And you're gonna, this is a traveling, so you're gonna be moving your body. And you don't want your sections to be too thick because you don't want to create any over direction, which means the thicker my section, the more I'm gonna over direct the hair. So think about it. If I end up taking this whole section and bringing it to the middle, I'm already creating over direction on this side and on this side. So I don't want to do that. I want to keep the less over direction, the better. So it's best to take small sections and travel with your guide. Keep your angle at 45 and your finger angle at 45. On my next section, I'm gonna take another 1.5 to 2 inches of a section and I'm gonna drop down. Now my guide is gonna be that subsection on the bottom. It's gonna be my guide. So if I ended here, what I wanna do, I'm gonna continue this guide. So when I drop my hair to a 45-degree angle, I'm gonna continue to follow this as my guide to go up. Let me show you what that looks like. So when I bring the hair to a 45-degree elevation, and I'm not really looking at this because this is my guide pretty much, but I'm looking at the section that I'm gonna cut. Make sure that that one stays at a 45-degree, but make sure that you have a little bit of that previous section. You see that piece of hair? That's gonna be my guide. So I don't wanna make that any shorter. I just wanna continue that 45-degree out here. So at the end, I'm gonna follow that 45-degree all throughout. So right there, that's my guide. So as soon as that guide comes off my finger, I know I'm gonna cut right there on a 45-degree angle. And you're gonna see how it continues to tuck in. And this is not gonna create a ton of layers. I'm gonna take another section, comb the hair in a vertical position. And as soon as that guide comes off my fingers, then I start cutting. So I'm traveling with this guide. In this case, I'm moving my mannequin. So 45, 45. And 45, 45. Done with that side, I'm gonna drop the other side. So that is my previous cut. I'm gonna make sure that I keep the hair at a 45-degree elevation. As soon as that guide comes off, then I start cutting. Next section, and my sections are about 1/2 inch thick. And I'm keeping finger angle and elevation at 45. Make sure that you keep this elevation where you're cutting, not necessarily the guide. The guide's already been cut. Don't worry about over directing the guide. What you don't want is you don't want to change your angle too much. And you're gonna see that the higher we go, the less we're gonna cut. So there. So if you kind of want to check your haircut, what you could do, you could start taking that layer on the top and just kind of bring it out. Make sure that you're kind of even. If you see that one piece is extremely longer, then that means you start gaining more length. So you're gonna have to go back and check and make that correction. But if you bring the hair out and it looks pretty even, so then you're good to go and move to the next section. I would advise you to do that before you move on, so that you don't end up with one side extremely longer than the other side. And again, depending on the density of the client, that's what's gonna determine how much hair you're gonna drop down. In this case, you know, I'm gonna keep it to about 1.5 inches to 2 inches. Gonna comb the hair, and I'm gonna continue bringing the hair to that 45-degree elevation. So the higher you go, the less you're gonna cut. Let me show you what that looks like. And I just dropped both sections here. So again, this is where I want to keep the 45. I don't want to bring it up too much because now I'm changing this elevation. This is what I'm cutting, so I need to keep an eye on the elevation there. If I keep it at 45 and I bring my fingers to a 45-degree angle, as soon as that guide comes off my fingers, then I cut. And it is a traveling guide. So I'm gonna start traveling. And again, the higher you go, if you feel like you missed a spot like I did right there, go back and just get that little piece. And then continue traveling with 45, 45. Constantly check your finger angle, and either you step to the side or you turn your mannequin so that you are traveling with your guide. So I'm going to go back to the center and find where I left, where I started, and then I continue with that guide. Comb the hair vertical, in a vertical position. And cut. Okay. Check the top, make sure that you're pretty even. And then drop the crown area. And let's just keep that 45 in there. So we're cutting right there, and you're traveling with that guide also. So when you get to the crown area, it's a little bit more like a fan effect. Let me show you what that looks like. So this is the crown. This is the crown, this is the side. So you're gonna start kind of going into like a fan effect on the crown area. Let's see. So starting from here, you're kind of gonna pivot. Let's see if I can bring my camera up a little bit more. So you're gonna start a pivot point cut. So you start here on your section, here, and then your next section is gonna be here, and then here, and then here. So you're gonna start always from the apex and section into a fan, okay? So from the apex, you're gonna bring that elevation 45. I've already cut that. So another section to fan the crown area, and you keep the angle 45 and then 45. And then you're gonna fan that section. So from the apex, straight, to 45. So you notice how I'm like cutting very little. So I'm done with the back. You see how that it's gonna push the hair to make it go under. Not a lot of layers, only layers on the bottom. And with this haircut, I'm gonna show you a texturizing technique so that you could give your client a better finish with this haircut in a specific. Now, as we move to the sides, you're gonna take about 1.5 to 2 inches on that section. And so you're gonna keep that angle, at a 45-degree elevation on that entire side, respecting that 45-degree angle and that 45 finger angle as well. Now this is where it's tricky, and if you forget about this part, then you are gonna end up a lot shorter on the side. So remember how we had established that we're gonna cut the length first to the desired length. So if the client wants her hair 3 inches shorter, we're gonna determine that by doing a 0-degree elevation haircut first. So we had already done that in the front as well. I want you to respect the length. I don't want, in this case, for you to take this section from the back and take that as your traveling guide. The reason why is because, remember, we have the ear. And since we have the ear, we don't have that piece of hair on the bottom. So if we continue taking this piece as our guide, we're gonna end up way shorter. So if I take this as my guide, I'm gonna end up here. So I don't want you to do that. I want you to respect the length as your guide. So in this case, I'm just gonna ignore the back. I accidentally unplugged my light. There you go, better lighting. Okay, so I'm gonna ignore the back and I'm gonna take the side, bring it to a 45-degree elevation. This is gonna be my guide, and then bring my finger into a 45-degree angle and then just cut right there. Don't wanna make the length any shorter, and this is a traveling guide. So you're gonna move, you're gonna step to the side or move your client. And then keep that 45-degree angle. And your sections are vertical sections. And keep the length. So we don't make the length any shorter. Drop the next section. Again, isolate the back, that it's not your guide. Your guide is gonna be that whatever you just cut on the bottom. So whatever you just cut in the bottom is gonna continue to be your guide to your 45-degree angle, not the back. So, right there, that's gonna come off on my fingers already, and then I cut. It's a traveling guide. Make sure that you respect that 45-degree angle and cut. And then drop everything down. Again, those sections are vertical sections. There you go. I didn't go any shorter on the length. I only created the layers. And see how I'm still one length. I still have the same length through the entire head, with the exception that I just added some layers on the bottom. So the next section, I'm gonna do exactly the same thing, but I'm gonna repeat it in Spanish for my Spanish speakers. En este lado voy a comenzar haciendo una sección tomando como una pulgada, como pulgada y media a 2 pulgadas, y voy a crear unas secciones verticales. Asegúrense que el cabello esté bien mojado cuando hacemos el corte con rastrillo. Ok. Pongan atención aquí, porque lo que pasa aquí en los lados, y muchas veces si no ponemos atención a eso vamos a terminar muy cortitas de lado por la figura del crecimiento del cabello, y porque no tenemos cabello aquí en el área de la oreja. Si nosotros tomamos en consideración esta guía de atrás y la llevamos hacia enfrente, por la razón que esta ya tiene capas, si seguimos esa guía hacia enfrente vamos a terminar, miren, ¿dónde está esta capa? Si yo sigo esta capa, voy a terminar súper cortita en la parte de los lados. Entonces, lo que no quieres hacer es seguir esa guía. En este caso, a diferencia del corte de un solo largo, que sí fue esta nuestra guía para la parte de enfrente, aquí la vamos a empujar hacia atrás y simplemente vamos a tomar en consideración lo que ya habíamos determinado, que era el largo. El largo lo hacemos primero en un corte respetando el largo que el cliente desea. Vamos a trabajar con secciones verticales. Ahí tengo mi sección. Hay que peinar el cabello verticalmente, respetando ese ángulo de 45 grados de elevación y el ángulo de 45 grados de dedo. En cuanto yo veo que este pedacito que viene siendo la parte larga del cabello, lo que va a ser mi largo, cuando veo que esa sección se va, entonces empiezo a cortar, respetando el ángulo de 45 grados de mi dedo, creando un mínimo de capas. Tomo mi siguiente sección, el largo va a ser mi guía, así es de que no necesariamente tengo que traer la sección previa hacia la nueva sección, y corto. Esta es una guía donde nos vamos a estar moviendo constantemente. Entonces, a 45, mi dedo a 45 y texturizo o corto. Traigo otra sección hacia abajo. Ahora, la sección que corté previamente, esa va a continuar siendo mi guía hasta que llegue yo a toda la parte de arriba. Repito, la parte de atrás se va a simplemente peinar para que no esté enfrente y no nos crea ninguna confusión. Vamos a respetar el largo. Nuestra guía va a ser lo que cortamos previamente, y simplemente vamos a cortar en cuanto se va saliendo la guía de nuestros dedos. En cuanto esa guía se sale de tus dedos, entonces cortas. Asegúrate que tu sección que estás cortando es la que lleva el ángulo, la elevación, perdón, de 45 grados. Y seguimos con el ángulo de dedo en 45. finalizar, vamos a bajar ya toda la sección que nos hacía falta. Y entre más arriba vayamos, pues vamos a cortar bien más poquito. Va a ser mínima lo que vamos a cortar de la parte de arriba. Okay. Pues ahí sigo teniendo el mismo largo con el que empecé. Simplemente he creado capas en la parte de abajo, que viene siendo como en las últimas 2 pulgadas de la parte de abajo es donde se crean las capas. Lo que hace este efecto es empujar el cabello hacia adelante. See, so all my hair is going to be pushed in. It doesn't have a lot of layers. It just gets rid of the weight on the bottom so that the haircut is not blunt anymore. Okay, so this is what a 45-degree angle razor haircut looks like. If you end up way shorter on the sides, if your haircut ends up looking like this, that means that you forgot and you were taking the back as your guide to the front. So I hope this video is helpful. I am gonna finalize this 45-degree angle razor haircut by showing you some texturizing techniques. Now, when you texturize, you could do it when the hair is wet, or you could do it when the hair is dry. In this case, for this particular haircut, I like to use the carbing technique, which is you're gonna comb the hair. You're gonna elevate the hair about a 45-degree elevation. Turn it this way. And you're gonna take your razor and you're gonna go into the hair and you're gonna create a C shape. So what you're going to do, you're gonna take your razor, go in, and create long C's. And I'm gonna do to the left on the left side, and then to the right on the right side. So that's how I'm gonna texture the back. Okay, so you're gonna comb the hair horizontally. I'm gonna hold the hair about 45-degree. Just gonna go in with my razor straight at the hair, and I'm gonna carve a little bit, and I'm gonna do a C, create a C section, and I'm gonna do a long stroke. You see that hair? That's gonna texturize that top layer so that it's not so thick. And I'm gonna do the same direction, so towards the face on the whole top. So I'm just going in very gently. Comb the hair at about a 45-degree elevation. Bring my razor in and then slightly curve to texture that top layer. That is typically what's gonna be a little bit fuller. So again, from the middle, 45, and I'm gonna start going the opposite side. So from the middle to the left, middle to the right, always towards the face. See how much hair I'm getting rid of. And I'm not really creating holes, I'm going very gently, so those C shapes that you're creating in the hair, they should be seamless. So this is one texturizing technique with a razor. And this, you could use it to finish your haircut. And you could do maybe a few while the hair is wet, blow dry the hair, and if you feel like the top is too blunt, too thick, then you could do the same technique when the hair is dry. Just to kind of get rid of some of that, some of that weight from the top. You see, so you shouldn't see any holes. Okay. All right, so that's it with a texturizing technique with a razor and a 45 degree elevation and finger angle on a razor haircut.